Hello, welcome to Akron Local News. I'm George Carter, and we paint positive images of our people every day. Today, we're here with another very special guest, the Honorable Shammas Malik. He's the mayor of the city of Akron, and it's so good for you to come down and have a conversation with us, Mayor.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me, George. Really glad to be here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump right into have a good question for you. I understand the budget has just been ratified.
It's about to be. We just introduced it. We've gone through the budget hearing, so it has to be approved by the end of the month. So we got like 12 days.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Now, what a lot of people are really wanting to hear about is there any money in the budget for road repair?
Yeah. So, we do 2 budgets a year, right?
Okay.
We do the capital budget at the beginning of the year, and that's all the infrastructure. That's the streets, that's our fire stations, that's all of our public facilities, our community centers. And so in that, we had 48 miles for streets. Right?
Okay.
It's 44 to 48 miles of streets, which is roughly the same as we've had for the last few years since issue 4, right?
Okay.
Issue 4 that folks approved back in 2017 allowed us to get up to that level because we weren't close to that level. Now, look, I know there's a lot of streets that folks say, well, still isn't up to par, right? I get that. One of the biggest issues that we have is concrete streets. So the concrete streets are separate, right? And the problem with concrete streets is that it costs way more to fix a concrete street than an asphalt street.
Absolutely.
And so if you go to Fairlawn, you see they're mostly concrete streets, but you got to keep them in good condition. So we've let so many of them go. And so we're trying each year to put more money towards the concrete streets. We really want to get there, right? And so we've got, all through town, there's some in Ward 4, there's some in Ward 2, and the north side, they're all over that we're trying to get more focus on. So we know streets are a big priority, but then we come to the operating budget. So the operating budget really is, staffing essentially, right? Okay. And so, we have 2,000 people who work for the city. 71% of the general fund, which is the main fund, goes towards staffing. And so, the biggest proportion of that is police and fire, right? Okay. And we're proud in this budget to have high levels of safety staffing, right? Maintain that even with some grants coming off so that more of it comes on our local taxes. Okay. But then we got the service department, that's the third biggest. Then we got finance, law, all the other departments. But this budget that we have this year, we're able to make some big investments, right? So we're finishing up these community centers through ARPA, the reservoir, new Patterson Park Community Center, the new at Davis obviously just opened, the pools, the reservoir pool. But then, a lot of it is maintaining our staff levels in a time of uncertainty. And so we see the uncertainty at the federal level. We see, uncertainty with our economy. There are a lot of things that are uncertain right now. And, we have the requirement to continue delivering the same level of city service while not having, all the resources. And so, I've been to Columbus and DC in the last month advocating and saying, hey, look, this is what those investments are going to lead to. Right. And so trying to fight to keep the Interbelt money that we got, fight to keep some of the other money that we got. So, I feel good, but, fiscal responsibility is a key part of this, right?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's taxpayer money.
You gotta have enough money, right?
It's taxpayer money, right? So it's your money, it's Hiram's money, it's all of our money. So I got to pretend he's not there, and so we take that very seriously. I want this city to be around in 100 years, right?
Exactly.
And so we got to be careful with what. So could we do more for roads? I hope so. But we are trying to do what we can.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good. So that is really good to hear. The budget's almost ratified, and then we should be getting some results soon.
Yeah, the capital budget with the streets already ratified, so they're starting any day now.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
that's great to hear,
so you'll see crews out there.
Almost totaled a couple vehicles this winter just in potholes, so it's gotten pretty rough. But that's good to hear. So I guess the next biggest thing on the agenda, or perhaps the biggest thing on the agenda, is what is going on a great deal down at City Hall right now, and it's a matter of policing in Akron.
So I think this is a really complicated issue, right? And I don't mean that to diminish any of it. But I think then this is an issue our community has been struggling with for a long time, right? I mean, you can go back
systemic problem.
Go into the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and you can talk about specific uses of force.
You can go back to the 30s.
You can go.
As long as policing has been around.
And we have 200 years of a city, right?
Correct.
And you know, you can take one incident and there are very different views about what's appropriate, right? But the bottom line, right, is that we have to have a system, a public safety system and a police department that works for everyone, and that everyone feels like it works for them, right?
Correct.
And everyone feels treated with dignity and respect, right? Now, you know, I don't see it the same way as, you know, some of the folks you mentioned in terms of professionalism. I think that, you know, we have you know, almost 500 people who work very hard each and every day in a really difficult job. My focus is how we can empower them to have the best department that we can, right? And a department that has all of the values that people want to see and has the best possible outcomes with, frankly, difficult situations, right? We are 36 hours away from a traffic stop where someone fired at an officer stopping them, right? Felony traffic stop. I don't know if it's felony traffic stop, but it's traffic stop at, you know, early in the morning. It ended up being
a felony situation.
And so these are very serious situations, but, you know, when police use deadly force, this is a matter of life and death. And so I understand that there has to be scrutiny, right? From my perspective, you know, I want to uplift the work that individuals are doing. I want to highlight the positive work while also acknowledging there has to be accountability, right? And also we have to work on the system, right?
Absolutely.
So let's not try to focus on individuals so much as let's make sure we have the best system we can. So with that being said, and I'm not trying to avoid the question, right? How do we tackle it, right? Because we got, you know, you want a better finance department, you want a better law department, you want a better fire department, you want a better police department. There are lots of different ways, right? There's policy and practices, there's culture, there's all of these different things, right? So from my perspective, as we've worked now with this police auditor now for a year, and we created this civilian oversight, right? The one thing that's been highlighted is use of force, right? And again, I think use of force is a nuanced situation because we've got officers are encountering people with guns way more than they ever did. Yeah, and that's where I want to be very clear that there has to be accountability for misconduct, right?
Exactly.
Like full stop. There has to be accountability for misconduct. And the whole role of this police auditor and oversight board is to tell me and the chief when he thinks that they got it wrong, right? And so that is significant, right? And I take full responsibility there, right? I think the buck stops with me. We have to have those conversations about specific incidents, right? You mentioned one of them, right? But the second piece, though, I think, right, is saying use of force, right, is a situation which is the most charged situation. So how can we make sure the part the police brings to the table is the best response to whatever the situation is, whether it's a positive situation, negative situation, the best response possible, right? In what are often volatile situations or lack of clarity, right? And so we want to do this policy review. It's not just to work on the policy, it's to look at policy, practices, all the engagement on this issue. And so we went and found, you know, some of the most qualified people in the country. And our city council didn't want to go down that direction, right? Now, I understand the concerns about cost, but when we talk about settlements the city has entered into, when we talk about, frankly, the whole size of the budget, right? In an $800 million budget, $750,000 is an investment, but $640,000. And now I'm even working on the other people's arguments.
That was the maximum possible.
Exactly. But we had actually decreased it. But anyway, so 640. But regardless, so we're not letting it go though. So we're going to come back with new ideas. We're not going to let this go. We are going to do this use of force review because we have to, right? We have to because, you know, the officers deserve the best possible preparation and training to be in those situations. If there's anything we can do to make a deadly force encounter better, we should be doing that.
Or to avoid a deadly force encounter?
To make, that's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
To make those as less likely as possible,
Okay.
right? Recognizing that you know, we can't control every possible factor in the situation, right? But we should do everything possible to make these kinds of incidents less likely, to get the best possible outcomes.
I think that's a zero cost operation, though, because when you look at some of the examples of the use of force, it's simple. Matter of communication, ability to communicate in a professional manner, and instead of triggering a person into a panic state, perhaps calmly, professionally explain to them, let's just examine this situation and we'll go with the greatest possible outcome we can come out of this, Mr. Citizen. You know, treat these people with respect so that they can expect to be dealt with in a proper manner. Quite often, I think a lot of people see the police department coming at individuals in a very aggressive manner. Quite often, they lead with violence rather than leading with an ability to create a dialogue so that an individual can understand who's already intimidated by a police stop simply because of the reputation of a lot of police across the country.
Yes.
There should be a set of standards and practices that would eliminate an officer acting in such an aggressive manner when it's not necessary.
The reality is that in any organization, we have values, we have kind of practices, right?
Standards and practices.
Practices. Now, incorporating those into how they manifest in the actions, right, is complicated. And I'm not trying to act like it's like some, takes some like PhD person. But what I'm saying is that in order to make a policy that reflects those values, we need some experts, right?
Okay.
We need people who can take a look at the policy and say, well, this is how they're doing it in Green Bay, and this is how they're doing it in Kansas City, and this is how they're doing it in Boston. And this is, because I can't tell you, is the problem the policy? Is the problem the practices? Is the problem the training? Is the problem the culture? Like, someone has to diagnose that. I know that a large portion of the community sees some of these actions and sees them as totally unacceptable, right?
Sure.
But there are also people in the community who see them as totally acceptable, right? And so how do we come up with a set of practices manifested in this policy that work for our entire community, right? And I'm not trying to say that as blowing past it or not taking it seriously, but that's only one approach, right? So the policy is one piece, the training's one piece, the practices are the one piece, the accountability is the piece too. So I think it's a whole thing. To me, the use of force policy review is the best way into it, right? Into a situation that no city has figured out the total solution, right? There's no, if there was some, it's not like, we build a sewer, the sewer works, the sewer issue is fixed. That's fine. We know how to solve those problems.
Exactly.
This is a more complex problem, but I take the sense of urgency dramatically. I mean, I've spoken with the families, right? I've spoken to loved ones. I don't want anyone to have to lose their life.
Okay.
Right? I ran for mayor because I don't want our community to be divided over this. I don't want people to not feel like the police department's there for them, right? And I see the heart of these officers who step into a difficult job, and I want to figure out how we have the best system possible so they're able to do the job we need them to do, and so people are treated with dignity and respect. I'm not acting like I have all the answers, like we figured it out, but we take it extraordinarily seriously. I mean, this is what we spend so much of our time focused on, is public safety. I probably spend 90% of my time focused on public safety across the board. But we're not going to have a community unless people feel safe. And so we want to deal with this issue head on. I want to talk about it head on.
I get that. There's one other question I want to ask, and this is in retrospect. Mr. Walker, when he was gunned down, was there ever a gunshot residue test done to determine whether he ever even fired a gun?
I do not recall that.
Okay.
I know that the BCI investigation, I think, fairly conclusively demonstrated that a gun was fired from that car as it was coming onto Route 8. I believe that was...
you mean the reflection that was in the mirror of the vehicle that was being driven by him?
Yes.
Oh, that.
Right.
But no gunshot residue.
I don't know if there was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's that was basically. But I pray that we can come to some conclusions about how to properly police every community in the city safely and with regard to everyone's dignity and obviously safety. And I greatly appreciate you coming down and taking the time to talk to us about these things. And I look forward to having you down at any given point that you'd like to have something you'd want to share with the community, or any updates on anything going on in City Hall.
Absolutely. So, and I want folks to know that we take safety very seriously, right? And we take these issues very seriously. I think ultimately, there's a lot to be excited about with this community, right?
I agree.
I mean, we have incredible talent. We have incredible, people, but we have big challenges as a community, right? We have huge challenges as a community. I think that us leaning in and having uncomfortable conversations about this, right, is the right approach, right? And so, appreciate, your willingness to talk about it, and always happy to come on, always happy to talk. Appreciate not just, what AkronHipHop.com, but Reporter newspaper. And, I think at the end of the day, in a world where it's harder and harder to get people information, appreciate you sharing information.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a very broad audience, so we look forward to keeping them updated on things that are going on. And again, we appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Hey, y'all, what's up? This is your girl, Simone B, coming at you from AkronHipHop.com, baby. I'm up here with my Oceanic water. It comes in 2 sizes, the 20 ounce and the 16.9 ounce. It's called Oceanic water because it's natural spring water. We all need to stay hydrated, but this is the key, y'all. Don't think, just drink. Oceanic natural spring water. You can purchase it in stores on Copley Ave, like the Love Restaurant, Pantry Pride. It's out there, y'all. This is your girl, Simone B. One more time, Oceanic natural spring water.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's Timbo, and I'm the Freak, and we're down here at Akron Hip Hop, June 21st. You know what we bringing.
Where we going?
We gonna shimmy, we gonna split, we gonna horn blow, we gonna do this, and we gonna dress to impress.
Okay, I'll see you then. Hello, my name is Margot Somerville, your president of Akron City Council, and I just want to do a shout out to Akron Hip Hop. Thank you for creating this positive platform and an opportunity to make sure that people in our community are engaged and informed about what's happening in our city right here in Akron. Akron residents, we want you to be engaged as well. Come see us Monday nights, 7:00 p.m. Akron City Council, so that you can be engaged and know what's happening in the city of Akron.